You know, it's easy to walk past an old Volkswagen Beetle and think it's just a rusted shell. But what if I told you that same car sitting for years in a barn workshop or driveway could be worth $50,000? That's right, 50 grand. In this video, I'm going to walk you step by step through how to spot a valuable classic Beetle what gives one car mere scraps value while another sells for tens of thousands. By the end, you'll know the subtle clues that separate a $500 basket case from a rare gem. And trust me, you start seeing these clues, you won't miss them. Classic Beetles span from 1946 to 1979, and each era has its own story and market value. The earliest ones, built right after World War II until 1953, have a split rear window, two small panes divided down the middle. These are rare. Only about 40,000 were made, and they often demand high prices among collectors. Next came the oval window cars, built from 1953 through 57. They're a bit more common around. 250,000 were made, but still highly sought for their nostalgia and unique look. Then, starting in 1958 and running into the early 1970s, Volkswagen switched to the larger single-piece big window rear glass and upgraded engine sizes into the 1300 and 1600 cc range. These cars are easier to find, parts are plentiful, and they usually sell in the mid-range for solid daily drivers or modest restoration. Finally, from 1971 to 1979 came the Super Beetle designated 1302, 1303, and 1600 cc with independent rear suspension, McPherson strut front end with improvements to ride quality. These aren't nearly as rare as the early models, but they offer comfort and drivability that appeals to fans while still holding collectability, especially with original parts and good condition. The hidden killer's rust is the silent enemy of all classic Beetles. Underneath that faded paint and crusty exterior could be serious structural damage. The most dangerous spots are the jacking plates mounted beneath the floor panel. They're rusted through the entire floor flexes and the car is unsafe. Look under battery trays. 2 battery acid eats steel fast. Then there are the heater channels and floorboards. Rot starts in hidden corners and spreads outwards, often costing thousands to repair properly. When you inspect a Beetle, bring a small screwdriver or awl and probe anywhere the metal looks thin or paint is bubbling. Don't be fooled by fresh paint rust often hides underneath. Accepting a Beetle with major rust in key areas imprisons you to bodywork bills that outstrip any reasonable investment. Even just replacing floor pans without a full restoration can easily cost $5,000 to $7,000. Matching VIN, engine, and transmission numbers may seem like collector jargon, but here it means authenticity. Every Beetle came off the factory line with numbers stamped on the VIN tag and on the chassis under the back seat. Early engines, for example, have a cast-on feature for mounting the generator to the fan shroud. This disappeared later. If your engine has that casting and the VINs match, you've got an original car. And that matters a lot to buyers. Restored Beetles may look good, but if the engine and transmission don't match the VIN or appear to be swapped later, that can knock $5,000 or more off its value. Conversely, when all numbers match, you know the car retains its true identity, and that simple authenticity can add thousands to its worth. Let's dive into what's under the hood. The earliest Beetles, the 1200cc narrow-case engines, were simple and reliable, but only gave about 25 to 30 horsepower. Moving into the 1960s, Volkswagen offered the 1300 and 1500cc engines. These were smoother, more responsive, and generally more pleasant to drive. If you're looking to evaluate engine health, a vital check is the crankshaft ND float. You pull the crank pulley and feel for in and out play. A little movement is okay. Too much means the bottom end bearings are worn out and you're facing a rebuild. Also, be alert for oil leaks around the pushrod tubes, rear main seals, or head bolts. Volkswagen engines shouldn't weep oil continuously. Compression is important, but a rough indicator on engine health is how the car starts and idles. If it fires smoothly and doesn't cough or spew smoke, that's a good sign. The engine is healthy. The drivetrain continues into the suspension and transmission technology. Early Beetles came with a swing axle rigid rear suspension and simple 4-speed manual gearbox. They're reliable, but the ride can be choppy, especially in tight corners. Starting in 1969, Volkswagen introduced independent rear suspension, and by this time, the Beetle had a slightly wider stance wall improvements that drivers really appreciate today. An IRS Beetle with a solid drivetrain is more comfortable to own and commands a higher price. But if you're chasing early split window cars, You'll get more value and authenticity over comfort. Step inside. Original interior features tell a story. That glove box needs to latch correctly. The dashboard should be non-cracked and fitted with original knobs. Seat upholstery may be worn, but if it's an original pattern or was replaced with period-correct material, that adds authenticity. Watch out for places like convertible tops if they're waterlogged. The floor pans underneath may be rotten. Good top condition suggests care and attention. Look for trim parts. Does it have the classic chrome bumpers? For US models, the towel rail tubular bumper guards are particularly desirable. Vintage luggage racks over the rear hood. Period correct hubcaps. These little extras signal to buyers that the car is thoughtfully maintained. Original or era accurate details give that collector touch. In fact, even a small detail like retaining the stock antenna instead of a modern stubby, one can sway a buyer emotionally toward one Beetle over another. What's the car's story? Does it come with old invoices, service manuals, or more importantly, a stack of receipts? A documented history shows care and can add real value. Knowing something like the Beetle belonged to a local Volkswagen mechanic in 1969 and was serviced every year till the 80s adds trust and adds money. Then there's geographic rarity. Early Beetles made in Europe before production moved to Mexico after 1971 are rarer and more collectible. Then there's celebrity provenance. A Beetle, once owned by a notable person or used in a famous event, will always find higher value. Even a small plaque or notarized statement can elevate a Beetle from a nice hobby car to a collector's prize. Let's turn dollars into context. A complete basket case with no engine and heavy rust might sell for as little as $500 to $3,000. But expect to spend thousands more to get it back on the road. A solid driver in good working order, say, a 1969 1500cc in moderate condition will run between $5,000 and $10,000 today. Once you get into matching numbers, oval or early big window restored models from the mid to late 1950s, you could be looking at $25,000 to $50,000. And for rare, pristine split window Beetles with full documentation and matching numbers, those push into the $50,000, $75,000 range, and occasionally beyond. One recent sale of a 1952 split window sold for nearly $100,000 in 2025, an example of rarity, condition, and provenance meeting in one package. Before you agree to buy, run through this checklist. Identify the year and window style split, oval, big window, or super Beetle. Probe all rust hotspots jacking plates, battery tray, floor pans, heater boxes. Match VIN and engine numbers designating authenticity. Check engine health, crank end float, cleanliness, leaks. Verify suspension type IRS, swing axle, ball joint or kingpin front. Inspect the interior dash, seats, convertible top, trim. Request documentation, service history, ownership records, restoration receipt. If the Beetle checks all these boxes, you're looking at a reliable investment, whether for pleasure or future resale. So there you have it. All comes down to condition, originality, rarity, and documented history. The next time you see a Beetle in a dusty garage or behind a barn door, remember, if it's the right era, has minimal rust, matching numbers, and a clean story, don't walk away. Could be your diamond in the rough. Drop a comment below. What's the coolest Beetle you've ever seen or maybe found? I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching, take care, and happy hunting.